Hi grade 7s, here I am with Whitney's Kiss and today I'll be looking at chapter 5. Her father did not feel better the next day, nor the next. The medicine wasn't helping. There's not much we can do, the doctor had said. As far as Whitney knew, AIDS had only one outcome. Sooner or later, it kills you. Whitney's mood at school had changed completely. She thought about her father all the time, and the worst was that she couldn't tell anyone the truth. She had considered telling her best friend Lindiwe the real reason her father was in hospital, but she decided against it. She might just turn her back on me, Whitney thought. She realized how afraid she was of losing her friends. At home, things were not the same as before. Whitney's mother was taking a lot of strain, and there was nobody that she could lean on for help, except Whitney. This is not right, Whitney thought. What about Ubuntu? What happened to people being there for each other? Makulu had passed away, and they had no other family living nearby. But why could their friends or neighbors not know about their problems and support them? Why did they have to suffer through this alone? In secret. This was not the way things were meant to be in their culture. Hadn't Makulu always said, a person is a person because of other people? Wasn't that what made us strong as people, as a community? A few mornings after her father's admission to hospital, a letter arrived from his work. Whitney's mother opened it next to his bed in the hospital so she could read it to him. It said that he had used up all his sick leave, plus an extra 6 months on limited pay, and that they could not extend his sick leave any further. This letter said that he should either come back to work or consider his employment terminated. Her mother could hardly finish reading the letter. They had feared such news for a while already, and she understood the implications immediately. She would have to find work to support herself and Whitney. It was too much for her. She began to wail loudly in a way that Whitney had last witnessed when Makulu died. She tried to console her mother with promises that everything would turn out fine, but Whitney did not even believe her own words. She knew that difficult days lay ahead. A nurse eventually rushed into the room and came to her mother's assistance. She tried in vain to comfort her and finally had to give mother an injection before she calmed down again. In the days that followed, Whitney's mother became more and more depressed. She avoided speaking to people and didn't like to have visitors around for fear that they would somehow find out about father's AIDS. One morning, as Whitney got ready to leave for school, she asked her mother about her fear. Mother, what's the big deal about father having AIDS? He was only helping somebody. Why are you so afraid to tell people? Whitney, we've been over this, her mother replied. People with AIDS become outcasts. Their family members become outcasts. I've seen it before. Trust me, it's better not to say anything. Someone might even burn our house down. But Mom, it's not even his fault that he has AIDS. Don't you think people will accept that? Whitney asked. It's not only about whose fault it is. The fact that he has AIDS will scare people. They might think that you and I are HIV positive too, and that we could infect them somehow. Like how? Like if they use our toilet or drink from our glass or even shake hands with us. People are ignorant, Whitney. Ignorant and afraid. They're scared of this disease. It sounds more like you're the one who's afraid, Mother. Her mother looked out the window. Maybe I just don't want you to suffer rejection, darling. That's all. I don't want you to lose all your friends. Now, you'd better get going if you want to be on time for school. Well, I'm not afraid, Whitney thought. She slung her bag over her shoulder and went out the door. I've got to tell somebody the truth, she decided, but only someone I can trust. Her shoes made a crunchy sound in the dust as she headed down the road. As she walked, she tried to think whom she could trust with her secret. Whitney eventually told 2 people. She told the 2 people she trusted the most. First, she told Lucky. He'd been so supportive of her during this time. He was a real sweetheart. They saw each other often, but never spoke for long. She didn't want to get in trouble again, so she had turned down his invitation to come to his house. He did not get upset at this, and he had put no further pressure on her, which proved to Whitney that his intentions were noble. She told Lucky the full story one afternoon on the way back from school. AIDS? From helping somebody? Lucky's mouth hung open. Shh. Whitney put a finger to her lips. Not so loud. I'm not allowed to tell anyone. People are supposed to think he has cancer. Why can't you tell anyone? He asked. Because, she said and held her palms up. Because what? Because, people will say stuff. They'll think bad things about my father, she said, and about me. Our family will be disgraced. I won't think anything bad. You know that, baby, don't you? She smiled at him. I know you won't. I trust you. That's why I felt I had to tell you. I don't want to keep any secrets from you. But promise not to tell anyone else. Will you? Of course not. I would never do that, he said sincerely. You still haven't said promise. I promise. On my mother's grave. He put a fist to his heart. Your mother's not even dead, Whitney said. My grandmother's grave then. She's been dead longer than a fossil. Sis, man, you shouldn't diss your grandmother like that. You can't be serious about your promise when you joke like that, she said. I'm sorry, baby. I'm dead serious, he said with a straight face. She didn't catch his pun. Swear to me you won't tell anyone, she insisted. I swear it, he said solemnly. Now I believe you. Anyway, I really have to go. I'll see you later, she said and picked up her bag. Lucky took her hand, looked around quickly, and brought it up to his lips. It was a brief, soft peck on her hand, but she felt it in her stomach. He dropped her hand and held her gaze until she finally turned around and walked off. What a gent, she thought, and giggled to herself. When first break started the next day, Whitney went straight to Mrs. Pillay's class. She had asked her teacher if they could have another chat. Mrs. Pillay had agreed and promised to wait for her. Let me guess. I'm in trouble about something, Mrs. Pillay quipped as Whitney walked in. Don't be silly, ma'am. What in the world could you get in trouble for? You're an adult, Whitney said as she put her palms on her teacher's desk. Adults can get into trouble too, her teacher answered. I guess that's true. My father's kind of in trouble now, in a different way, Whitney said and lowered her head. Might as well get straight to the point, she thought. Mrs. Pillay came around the desk and stood closer to Whitney. With his cancer? Yes, Whitney, I was really sorry to hear about that. How are you coping with it? She asked and put her hand on Whitney's shoulder. Whitney swallowed. Actually, that's what I wanted to talk to you about. My father doesn't really... The words got stuck in Whitney's throat and she started crying. Mrs. Pillay took her in her arms. It's okay, little girl. It's okay to cry. She patted her back gently and waited for Whitney to continue. It's AIDS, she sobbed and buried her head in her teacher's embrace. Mrs. Pillay understood immediately. She had suspected it, actually. There had been no mention of what kind of cancer her father had. and it was not uncommon for people with AIDS to pretend they have cancer or some other illness. Whitney was sobbing uncontrollably. "Shh, it's okay. I understand, love," Mrs. Pillay said quietly. "You were told to say he has cancer, weren't you?" Whitney nodded and tried to compose herself. "Mother says people will reject us," she said, and wiped her tears with her sleeve. "And it wasn't even my father's fault that he got it." Mrs. Pillay did not answer. She felt so sorry for Whitney. It was a cruel world. As if living with HIV and AIDS were not enough suffering, people with AIDS and their families had to endure the scorn and rejection of everyone around them. Whitney needed support, not rejection. Mrs. Pillay thought about what to say. Would it not be better to just tell everyone the truth? She'd always told the children about the importance of honesty. She asked Whitney how she would feel if people knew the truth. "I can't, ma'am. My mother will find out, and she made me promise," she fiddled with her fingernails. "Besides, she's right. The other day, I even heard Lindiwe make a comment about people with AIDS. I don't want to lose all my friends," she added. "Well, maybe you won't lose your friends, Whitney. Not your real friends, anyway. You told me the truth, didn't you? Doesn't that make you feel better?" "Yes, and I told Lucky. You're the only two people I can trust," Whitney said softly. She didn't look up to notice the concerned look in her teacher's eyes. "Why don't you come visit me at home again this afternoon? Then you can tell me the whole story." "Okay, ma'am, that would be nice. Thank you." Whitney had stopped crying and she gave a faint smile. "And you can tell me all about you and Lucky," Mrs. Pillay added. There was a hint of a twinkle in Whitney's eyes. "Me and Lucky were made for each other," she said. "You mean Lucky and I," her English teacher added. "Oh, okay, Lucky and I then." "He's a lucky boy," Mrs. Pillay said, and Whitney grinned shyly. Whitney felt relieved. The lie about her father's cancer had become like a cancer within her. The guilt of hiding the truth had been eating away at her insides. Now that she had shared her secret with Lucky and her teacher, it felt as if a weight had been lifted off her shoulders. She was relieved that she had told him the truth, and relieved that neither of them had rejected her because of it. She did not feel so alone in this anymore. At least there were people who knew now, people who understood, and would keep it a secret. Right, that's the end of chapter 5. I will see you when we do chapter 6.